It's got a lot to go live with, I think. Hey everybody, my name is Skye. This is JJ. We are here with the Raw Food Podcast. We're going to talk about where to get help as a raw vegan. We are both raw vegan and it completely changed our life. So we want to help you stay raw, go raw, wherever you're at. Hey JJ.
Hey Skye, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk with you today.
Now, this topic is interesting because it's probably the most important thing, right? Like you decide to go raw and you've got to work out, where to get help. What was the first thing you did when you went raw?
So the first thing that I did when I went raw, obviously I saw the first documentary on YouTube. So the second thing I did, I was really big into Facebook at the time. So my first thought was I need to go join Facebook groups, right? And so I typed in the word raw and just basically went through and joined all these raw Facebook groups. And that's when the most confusion happened in some ways.
Really?
Because I should have probably just joined one or two and got all my questions answered, but I was trying to do the comparison and I feel like I got too much in my head and started trying to figure out the rules. And it was almost easier when I did it without all of that. For that first 6 months, I was basically just doing it on my own, going off of that one documentary that I saw. And then when I was like, I'm loving this, I want to get deeper into it. Like I was watching transformational stories, but I hadn't really been inside like a little bit deeper to be around other people that were doing it. And then I discovered there was all different ways. People were like fruitarians, they were calling themselves raw vegans, and then there was high raw, and it was like all these different things. And I think it's interesting because all of it happened to me at once. I went vegan and raw at the same time, and then became like more of a cooked food vegan, and then went back to raw. So it was like, I think that second time when I got in the groups and went back to raw, I realized that there was a lot of confusion out there for beginners. And kind of when I came back into my own and started and went back to doing it the way that I originally did it, after getting way too into the technical details, that's what made me really want to help beginners and like become a coach, like I know is what you do as well, just to kind of bring people back to the joy in it, and I love that about you. And I think that's why we resonate together to do this show, because it's so much about, enjoying the journey and don't get too much in your head about rules.
Yeah, like 100%. Like I actually, if you know my story, I was at rock bottom. So I'd been sick for 32 years, 60 surgeries, 8 major organs removed. I had a functional neurological disorder where I couldn't walk, couldn't talk, or read. So I was vegan and in hospital a lot leading up to this, and would ask for vegan food. And that was given to me. Nutritionists were tracking what I was eating. My health was getting worse. I actually then started drinking to cope. So a brain and then my liver started failing, and then I stopped drinking. It was about 5 months I hadn't drunk for, but my health was not getting better as a whole food. I was eating more whole foods. And when I discovered that eating fresh food meant that I could stand up and do things, the only place that I could access information was essentially Instagram, because there's photos. I could read small bits. Some days I could remember how to say my name and address, but I found looking at these pictures helped me identify who I was. It was very hard for me. Back then my brain and myself was completely different, but I saw beautiful pictures of salads and smoothie bowls and happy people. That was like the greatest thing for me. When I discovered all these people, everyone looked so like they were glowing.
Yeah, it is
like,
so true. Like on
yeah,
YouTube, I remember watching some of the things, and there was a guy talking about how he completely like changed his skin, and he just looked so glowing. And like Christina was on there with her glow. There was just and very happy and upbeat. You're right. I do remember that.
Yeah, and I think part of what was happening for me is I believe we, just like every other animal on the planet, should be able to walk out the door, see a plant and be attracted to it or repulsed by it. Like a squirrel ain't going, what's my daily recommended intake for iron? Do I need to now have this or go on a diet? It just eats, or it fasts, or it eats a herb if it's sick. And what I think was happening to me is when you've been that disconnected for, well, basically 2 years where I hadn't read anything or been online very much, as in like connected with people, I was starting to see that like this, I've got my juice here, but things like carrots and salads and fruit had like a vibration to them that I was being more, that looked more like, oh, why wouldn't I want that? And I don't think I could have had that attraction without being so disconnected. But the other thing you see, I think I saw, and I think it's harder to see now when you get a bit more brainwashed on the computer, is when I saw all these people like Raw Christine or all these people eating smoothie bowls, I was also looking at their vibration back then. I think I was at a very basic, my brain wasn't functioning very well. It was more like you could actually see what these foods were doing. But I actually feel like I was very blessed when I went raw because I didn't read all this information. You're right. I forget that most people, you sign up to these groups. It's like, eat this, don't eat this. And I, even when my brain started working, I ended up on just watermelon for ages, thinking that that's because you get even watermelon hasn't got seeds. Now that's bad. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to eat? Sorry. Didn't mean to say it, but like it gets like that, right?
Exactly.
But that's why I do all these podcasts to keep people like in a grounded way. You can always say, find raw that works for you, and then go off and do what you want to do. Like you can go off and if you want to go and do a cleanse, or you want to do water fasting for 3 days, or you want to do fruits for a month or whatever, do it. But what are you coming back to? Like that, because remember people, you're doing this for the rest of your life. This isn't like, I'll just copy this, like rinse and repeat and you can push through. How long can you push through is like that question. So I was going to actually say your Sad to Glad book. Do you want to just talk on that for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that the book was really about, is getting to long-term, long-lasting change. Like I think this becomes something that for a lot of people becomes a temporary, like I'm going to go raw for 3 days, and reset or whatever that is, detox, or a lot of people use it as a healing mechanism, and yet they can't really ever squeeze it into their regular life, or like, when the social pressure of having to find food to eat out, or maybe find fruits, and they don't want to eat just fruit, and like sometimes the rules that you can hear create like a false sense of complication about the diet, when it's really just about adding as many fresh, whole, raw foods to your diet as you can. And what I tried to do in the book was talk about my progression that I went through, where I had a goal, but yet those goals changed throughout my journey. But the main goal was just keeping it very simple. I just wanted to lose weight. And then in doing that, I went into the learning phase and really had to learn about raw foods. And that really helped me when I started realizing, okay, these have so much hydration and vibration. Hey, that rhymed. And these foods are flooding my body with these nutrients are what healed those conditions. Because originally I didn't know what was happening. I just knew I was starting to feel better. The pain that I had had for 18 years was going away. So really getting into it and learning about it truly helped me in understanding why. Like you said, I started to reconnect that my body heals itself, and started understanding I guess, what real food was. And I feel like that underlying why has to be there for you to do something long term. So it then at that point didn't really become a choice for me. It became, I'm going to do this. This has resonated with me, how I feel like we're supposed to eat and live. So I'm going to make it work. And then basically, there can be over learning. When I went into action in the book, it was like just going out and buying the fruits and vegetables and starting making the salads. Like starting at level one is so important, because we may try to say, I don't know how to make raw food, and I was like, I can always make a salad. So that's what I started with. And I just suggest people start with that very simple basis. If you know how to make a salad, then that's great. I just put a post out about different ways you can just start adding raw food to your cooked meals, if you just want to increase raw food. Because I think you have to learn what you like and learn your way. And starting, with getting into deep with too many rules and regulations, you're never going to start. So, and then just discipline comes with, like I just really mentioned, making sure that it's something that it's resonated with you, that you want to do it, and you're just figuring out a way. You're not trying. I think we did an episode on that, because we can always lie to ourselves in the back of our mind, be like, oh, this is just temporary. But I knew it was going to be a lifestyle, but I wanted it to be fun for people. That's what I love about it. Is I'm so excited about raw food. I don't do it because I have to. I just love finding and eating fresh raw foods in different variations. And for me, I just hold it loosely, like with raw, because also you can get caught up in that dogmatic, that's not raw, that's not raw, this is raw, that's not raw, and it can make you feel bad. So I would just suggest holding it as, if you're not cooking it, it's raw to me. I know there are variations. The nuts may not be completely raw, but especially in the beginning, you really can just look at it as, I'm not putting it in a oven. So that's what I would
Yeah.
suggest.
But I mean, I think what you said there is right. What if people just start getting whole foods? Like that's like a great place to start. Raw makes you feel amazing. But if you start getting very stressed out and you're reading these protocols and you can't stick with it, then I always say, what's the point? So I've got a list here of things, to do. But I also think it depends on the person. So one of the first things that can really help is to get a coach. And that is when I suggest, like I'm a coach, JJ's a coach, and I'm not saying that we're supposed to be your coach. You need to have a coach that you resonate with. Like that you look at their posts, you look at their website, you look at their Instagram, you look at their YouTube, and you want to basically become what they do. Like you love what they say. It's like that epiphany came when I finally healed myself, and I had for a long period of time listened to doctors who I looked at and did not want to become.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, they're teaching something, and obviously I don't think it's working for them. You want to look at the person and see that they have a great life, they have great health, you love what their mindset is, and you want to basically have that lifestyle. That's my greatest recommendation on who you pick as a coach, because it's all about, this is just a piece, and it's a good piece to start with, because you get that support, you get accountability, you get knowledge, and you want someone who really nurtures you. I don't suggest ever having a coach who is going to dictate to you, as in like if you do something, it's bad. Like it's you have to find you. So what are your thoughts on coaches?
Yeah, I think it's so important both for yourself when we're self coaches too. So celebrating your wins is so big for me. And, also I know you have an amazing group that you have on Facebook. And also I have a couple of Facebook groups, and then a club that I run that you can get a little more personal attention. But those things that we do and those rules that we have in the group are very uplifting. Like, if you do something little today, or like 3 different things you've done for yourself, you ate fruit or you ate a salad, and not to be hard on yourself if you feel like you've done something wrong, and celebrating every little win that you have, because it's so important to feel good about what you're doing so that it doesn't have an adverse effect on you. My thoughts about a coach is to bring out of you what you already know is inside of you. And that's just like your guide to bring that out. And if someone's making you feel bad all the time, yeah, you might do it temporarily because you're trying to, not make them mad, let's say, but that's not going to work for a long
Yeah.
lasting change. You want somebody who can uplift you and make you excited about this lifestyle, in my opinion.
I could not agree more with that. You want someone who makes you feel celebrated, that the choices you make you feel amazing. Because I'll tell you what, you can do, as I said, you can do a protocol for a short period, but to find the real journey, the real you long term, is what it's all about, because you've got to work on you every single day. None of us went raw, even if you look at us and think that we do. And it's just like we're never working on ourselves. The whole point is like working on yourself, and you feel better and more amazing. And at different times, we eat different ways. And I do really believe, especially when I didn't have a coach when I went raw. And I don't think I needed it because there was no head confusion. But when you reminded me that people go in and it's like you got even more confused. You like, okay, I'm going to be eating this way, but now you're so confused. And that's what happened. Like, I'm actually thinking if you post in a group the same question, to get completely different responses is like, you want support. You want you don't even want someone to go, no, that's inflammatory, mucus forming and acidic. You want someone to go, hey, I tried that, didn't work for me. Here's some things I tried. That's what you, and I guess that's what you get from a coach, right? Is I hope you do, is you want redirection and support.
And then the thing is, like, also to, I guess, when you get those type of questions, you can get that real time, support, and then someone that will give you those options. I love that, what you said, but I hate to think of how many people like come into this so excited, and sometimes I can just watch the groups like I already have stolen the joy, right? So it's so important how we encourage each other too, because you don't let anyone do that to you. If this is something you're doing for your health and your life, you can research things. There's plenty of research tools out here now, but when it comes to just wanting that guidance and that encouragement, I think that's what's so important about having, a coach or a supportive community to be in.
100%. And I think
In the right community, to your point.
Yeah, and the greatest determinant of longevity is happiness. So if somebody's like, I'm going to live forever and I'm going to just eat tomatoes or watermelon or apples or like 3 foods, tell me how long you're happy for, and then tell me that person won't self-destruct in some way. And that the brain is very clever. It lives and motivates from having dopamine. So if you find a lifestyle which you think will fix the problem, if you're not having enough motivation, which is dopamine and happiness, is you will self-destruct inadvertently, unconsciously in another area of your life. The brain has to do it. It will make us actually have downs so we can fill up if it needs to. Because if someone has no dopamine, they don't move.
Right.
So you have to have a way to enjoy something long term, and this, just like any other lifestyle which is out there, is essentially what people want to do for life. So I think that's very important, to find joy. That's what we want for you guys.
Absolutely. And I think that you have to remember that there are people who've been doing this for a long time, who've kind of figured out their way, so they can also help you to navigate through those struggles, but also remember that they have been doing it for a long time. So you also don't just want to copy them in some ways and say, I can't do it because I'm not, I'm able to do it that way. I loved what you said about find your way. And so starting very basic and just starting to enjoy what you're doing and finding things you love and finding your joy in it is definitely what's going to keep you motivated. I think that's the biggest thing, is you can get an education of raw foods and understand, learning to love yourself and your body and how it heals. But for lasting change, I wouldn't look at it as a temporary fix, because that is exactly what your brain's going to make it. And you're right. I know there is something our brain does. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to make ourselves feel bad. So we're going to come up with a story, whatever it is. So it might as well be a story that we enjoy, so that we want to keep doing it. Because if it's something that starts to feel complicated or stressful, that's really, I think, where a coach can come in, because that way you don't look back a couple of years from now and say, oh, if I had stuck with that, I may not, I would already have been reached my, optimal weight, or whatever it is you wanted to do. If some little thing pushed you back off of it the other way, because it's so easy to go into our comfort zone for so many reasons.
100%. Like, I completely agree with all of that. And I think back to when I have times where I am struggling, just usually in life, not so much specifically with the raw diet, is because I love what I do so much. Usually one of the things that I love to do is then go for a walk, or go for a swim in the ocean, or make my favorite salad dressing recipe, or get on and do a live and make my cabbage steak, because I've created a lifestyle. And yes, some days, I might want to just juice for 2 days because, settle my stomach or whatever I've decided to do. But when I complete that, or 3 days, whatever it is, I know where I'm going back to. And that is a safe, happy Skye space. We want you to have your happy space and happy life. And the good thing about finding a raw food lifestyle is you feel so good. That's why we do it. That's why I do, like, what is it, like 5 podcasts a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like it.
Yes.
It's like so, like, it shines out of us, right? It can't help, like, when you complete looking after you, you've got all this extra energy to shine out.
I love that, to let it spill over into everyone else, right? Like, because it is such a passion, like, and it might not be something that it's like I'm always doing something about it, like wanting to help people and wanting to share this with them, or wanting to solve problems that I think people have, and why they may not be succeeding or being able to stay with their raw vegan diet. It really became a passion in my life and a purpose, but aside from that, I have memories now of raw food and how to handle things, like you said, like maybe making a certain meal or having a certain fruit brings you, like, how you handle stress now, instead of running to a previous diet, but you have to stay with it long enough to figure out a way to do it, and not just, I don't like, mango, or I don't like grapefruit, so this isn't going to work for me, because there's so many ways to do it, both if you're just coming into a plant-based lifestyle or to a raw vegan lifestyle. I think there are general things that I can share that work for me, like ratios and things like that, but that's what works for me. And there are healthier and unhealthier ways to do it, where you can add more whole food and things like that. But, like, overall, there are a lot of ways to still do it in a healthy way within those limits of whole foods and, the maximum amount of fresh food. And I think the first thing we do when we say, I can't do this or I can't do that, is we jump and we want to do that. So that's why I always say to come into it with an abundance type of mindset. We did a whole live stream, I think, on our playlist here on that, thinking of it in form of abundance. I want to try as many raw foods as I can, this month. I want to add as many raw foods to my diet as I can. I want to try to do this, even if you commit to only 1 day to start with, so your mind doesn't twist it around and be like, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm going to be raw for the rest of my life. Like, I started with a 3-day. You started just by figuring out, like, hey, this feels good. So start there.
Yeah. But also, I think when you talk about like coping with stress, is no matter how much stress is in our life, we've still got to have movement, sunlight, and eat. And if you can find positivity in that and joy, they're things you got to do anyway. It's not
Yeah.
like you have a stressful day and you come home and it's like, well, some people may choose not to eat. It's like people might say, oh, well, now I'm projecting it into my raw food. You still got to eat. So you may as
Yeah.
well project that energy into something that not only feels good when you eat it, but you feel good after eating it as well. And the same with getting some sunlight is you feel good doing it. And then when you come inside, you feel better because of the sunlight. Self-destructive patterns happen when you're like, okay, I'll drink. Oh, that feels good. But then afterwards you feel terrible. That means that's self-harm. That is not dealing with stress whatsoever. I think the best way to deal with stress in this world is to have a healthy lifestyle practices in place, because whether it's a good day or a bad day, you're still going to do them. But what I notice about doing all the healthy practices is that, yes, you can feel a little more present and less numb while you're doing it, but the payoff is afterwards. My thoughts are usually clearer if I've gone for a walk or a run or a swim or sunlight or made raw food. I feel more settled. I also feel very good about myself that I've made these choices. Like the self-talk and shame and disgust and the jealousy that comes from making choices like drinking or eating bad foods, and the guilt and the shame and comparing yourself. I just stopped comparing myself, because even raw foodists, I get inspiration from them. It's not like I feel like someone's doing better than me. I'm like, I love what
Yeah.
I'm doing. I'll try that, what they're making. Did it work for me? Oh, I like the sauce. I'll use that sauce again, or a principle of it. But I find that guilt, shame, disgust is not there. And I guess when we try and deal with stress, we sacrifice those feelings for moments when we numb with processed food or alcohol or whatever it is that somebody uses, to then have it resurge up and be almost all consuming off the back of it. And we've learned as a society that's how we cope: up, down, up, down, up, down. But raw to me is like, you rise, you might drop a bit, you rise. But we very much have learned to cope. The brain, if you've done something from a very young age, it loves to sit in that. It loves to default back to what we've learned, and we really feel high because we felt low. So the lower you feel when you start drinking or you start smoking or you start doing self-destructive behavior, you start telling yourself that you're doing good. And so you've done that over years, and so you
Mm-hmm.
default back to that. And that's why you need to find a way to do this that makes you feel good, that you love. And yeah, I've gone off a bit there, but it's actually moving into the next thing to look for if you want to get help as a raw vegan, and that is community, which you kind of touched on. So
Yes.
be part of a community. So I have a community. JJ has some communities. I also have group coaching, which is a community. I find communities are on YouTube, communities are on Instagram. There's communities everywhere. I say immerse yourself in communities that support wherever you're at, not self tear down, support, and make you feel good. I've been in communities that don't make me feel good, and I have to block or change or remove myself because I want to feel good.
Yeah. And I think it's so important too. Don't, like, when you are having those struggles or those times of, where it just feels like you can't do this, or you feel bad about yourself, or maybe you've went off and done something that doesn't align with your goals in a sense, maybe you've ate that meal that you tried not to eat or whatever the case is. That's when you really need to lean into the community, because I see it sometimes where people, they don't utilize that, group coaching, or when you're doing good and you are, feeling good and you're doing everything quote unquote how you want to for that period of time when you're on a high. But I think it can really be helpful to come to the group coaching calls, like when in our groups, and also in post in the community, reach out to the coach personally that you're dealing with and let them know where you are, because like there's probably everyone almost in there either has been in that situation. Even if you start out and you love raw food, something happens, life happens, stress happens, and you're starting to feel, or someone's made you feel bad, maybe even in a different group, or somebody in your life is, why are you doing this? Or they're asking you questions that you really don't know how to answer. And maybe you're worried yourself, because in the beginning of this, we're all thinking how we did in our standard diet, where people are looking at us like we are going to literally die because we're not eating protein or meat, right? So if something's bothering at you, instead of just stopping, I would say come in and talk to us and tell us, even if it's posting in a Facebook group, or coming to someone personally that you trust, or that you've gotten to know as a coach or a mentor, and it can really be helpful. I know it's helpful for me, in even where I am at this stage in the game. I have vegan friends that I can go to if something has come up, or someone says something to me in the comments that I can't shake off, something like that. It is important to just have that community around you. And also seeing people that are like-minded in your regular life is very difficult, but online you can find, what do they say, find your tribe, right? And just get with the people that are like focusing on their health, and you're seeing people excited about what they're doing, and it really does help. I love community, and it's been so helpful for me.
Yeah, I think also what can just to be aware of is, if we've come from a place where we're quite self-destructive, we can inadvertently choose self-destructive communities, ones that beat us down, which are making us feel bad, yet some way our brain is telling us this is the right way. It's really important to find communities or make choices, and even line your feed up. Get rid of everything coming through your feeds, especially something like Instagram, even Facebook, where everything that comes up, nothing sets off like cortisol or alarm bells or like shock. We can get really caught up in all of that, like, defensiveness, drama. We get dopamine from that. We don't want, you want to feel like,
Arguing.
yeah, like that is not what this is about. This is about you finding you. That's really what I feel the raw community your raw journey, your life should be about. Like, what, it may start quite small. I remember getting rid of, and because when you have no blockers anymore, like things numbing you, when you're very clear from raw foods, you feel when something really affects you in a negative way. Especially when I first started, I was like, well, I blocked, I changed, I made us, because I told you when I first started that was Instagram, because of the pictures, is if it made me feel bad, I didn't care if I'd been friends with someone for ages, it had to be blocked.
Get it out.
Amazing how many years I probably looked at things causing me harm, did not realize. So that's like a huge part, is choose your communities wisely. And JJ's given the perfect example. She went raw and jumped in every community she could. And in hindsight, it's like, maybe read through and see where you're at and who's in the group. Pull out of what's not working for you, move across to what is working for you, and like own it. Because if you sit in crap, you become crap. Like,
yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, there are a lot of like AI generated posts nowadays that are meant to get people arguing online. Like it is, I've seen it in other groups, that same whatever the background is, and like you can see it's a generated post where people are then sharing the negativity over and over, and it's like, oh no, like, and maybe sometimes you might like something like that for entertainment value, but in like my community, and I know in yours, we are there to like have fun, obviously, but it's not that constant negativity. Raising cortisol is not good for your body either. Not that people can't disagree, or like you said, well, this didn't work for me, but this did, like those type of things. But like what you may be seeing online of just like flat out like being mean to each other and arguing, like that's the kind of thing that I don't think is necessary in any community, or at least any private community that there's an administrator running.
but what if your diet made you into who you are. So that what you see presented online and the joy and the happiness and the positivity is a representation of basically how happy I am. Isn't that how life works? So if I'm online constantly spewing negativity, something's not right. As in, there's something in my life I'm not doing right. When I'm online and I'm like, I love love, I want to help you, I want to share, I've got these recipes, is you're looking at a complete representation of how I feel. Like my mindset, how often I'm saying positive words and happiness and love, and if you follow me, you see me a lot in most days, like you as well, JJ. And so if I start getting negative, and I may not see it at the start, but anytime I have become negative on this journey, it's usually, in my experience, I was coming from lack in my lifestyle. The only time I started to get really narrow-minded was when I was very high on fruit. I became very judgmental. And then I realized I had blood tests and I was not getting everything I needed, and I adjust my life. And who I became again was even more so myself. And that was part of my journey, and I've shared that. But it's really like, if you want to, that's because you want to become someone who shares love. You want to become someone who is happy. And if somebody is sad or mad or angry and you follow what they're doing, well, don't be upset if that's what you get. So I say, look at behaviors as well, because that's what you want to become.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier that we are a complete like machine here. We don't just run on food. We run on sunlight. We run on, all the pillars of health that we have. So like if we're talking about stress, like it literally changes the functions in our body. So while you think you're handling it, it's something going on inside of you that those insulin could be raising, or like you mentioned earlier, dopamine. That's a good thing when we're doing it and something we want. But if we're constantly under distress, like fight or flight, or we're constantly upset or arguing or confused, or we start to feel negativity, that's not help. If your overall goal is health, right, which most of us come into this as, whichever we're looking at it, we're trying to get healthier in 9 out of 10 cases when we're eating raw vegan diet. So I would just say, look at that, like your mental status, as part of the overall health. So when you're choosing how to get help, and when strengthen yourself, be proud of what you're doing, so when those things do arise, it's not going to send you down that road. Be okay to cut it off and move forward with, if that didn't work out for you, move with a different mentor or whatever it is. It's okay, because it's your journey. So that's, I think, part of your message, is choose who you want to work with, whether it would be joining our group or joining another coach that might resonate better with you, or might be more your age, or whatever it is you're looking for. But just make sure that it's someone that uplifts you, I would say, because I've seen so many people that leave this lifestyle because they felt bad or felt like they couldn't do it. And I really know that, most people want this so bad. Don't allow anything to leave you without your health goals that you're trying to, reach, or being able to feel good and energy and happiness, because it's your body and it's your life. So when you choose the community, it also is very important to be there and be present with a place that's giving you positivity too.
That's right. We want you to find you. Okay, so we've spoken on getting coaches, especially when you're new to raw vegan foods and you need help. Finding online communities and support groups. We've spoken about that. Next is books and educational resources. Now, I am not I do think they're helpful, but what you don't want them to become is a Bible. And I love your book, JJ, because it's more on mindset, not rules. As in, like, how do you stay there? My biggest fear is you read something and then every decision you make hinges on the principles in a book. Like, as in, like, I can't eat that. This book I read said it. But basically becoming a Bible. If you're going to read educate yourself everywhere and make your own decision. That's what I say when it comes to books. Some of the books that have come up here, 80-10-10 by Doug Graham, I've read that. I agree with the principles. I don't agree. This is just my personal opinion. I don't agree that we live in the same world we used to. So I think if we 80-10-10 is perfect if we lived outdoors and we lived still by the beach and there wasn't as much pollution, so we're not getting as much wear and tear on our body, our lungs, lack of oxygen. We just need different nutrients. But besides that, I believe original. That's my. And then some of these other books, I haven't read them, that they've come up. There's Raw, the Uncooked book. There's Becoming Raw, when that's by Giuliano. There's Becoming Raw by Brenda Davis and Vistainto Molina, which is a scientific overview. I'm interested in seeing that. Raw Success by Matt Monarch, Fully Raw Diet by Raw Christina, and of course Sad to Glad by JJ.
Oh, thank you. I made the list. And your book too.
Yeah, of course you made the list. But yeah, look, the only one that came up there that I had read, and the reason I'm not, like, I read just so I know what's going on in the, like, people are all referring to when it comes to like rules of a raw diet. But seriously, I would not still be raw if I followed a book or a protocol. Like, so many times I just have to I stayed raw because some days my body needs something. And I hear a lot of women also say when their cycle, they'll eat like high fruit. Then when their cycle comes, they will eat dense for like 4 or 5 days. What if a book says you're not allowed to do that? You're not allowed.
Like, I can't do it, so I'm going to go get a taco or whatever, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's what happens, right? It's like
barbecue sandwich or whatever, right? Vegan burger instead.
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't have that. I love that, because dates and avocados, if that's getting you through, that's what gets you through. But eventually you'll want to crave freshness again. Like, it's how my experience has been. Like, I don't really want to have avocados all day, every day, but there are periods of time where I'm like, I need an avocado. And you shouldn't be able to say, oh no, they have too fat high ratio or omega or
not
whatever.
Just that, but you shouldn't be feeling bad. Like, there's so many worse things you can do for your body than have a day where you're like, I really just need like 3 or 4 avocados. That's what I feel like today. I'm going to make a big bowl of guacamole. And you're like, now I'm like a horrible person. I'm not doing this right. I've ruined the whole thing.
And I'm satisfied, right?
You want to be like, I could have gone and drunk. I used to be on OxyContin and fentanyl and
right
in my back. And like, it's like I'm having avocado. Like, let's be so for real.
Look at that bar we've set for ourselves, right?
And that's what your book's about, right? Is like setting that bar and setting up this lifestyle and a mindset which works for you. And you get to make the decision. If you wake up the next day, I've never woken up and felt terrible from too much avocados.
No avocado hangover.
No, I haven't. I will say sometimes my stomach's a little bit more, digestion's a little tiny slower. But it's not the same as a hangover. It's not the same as what all of these drugs used to do to my body.
Yes.
It's not the same as eating like a hamburger. And I always notice my skin and hair is amazing.
Yes.
And avocados.
They are good for that, right? Like, I've just been really on the Medjool dates lately. I had never had one until about a month. I think it was a month or so ago. And I just didn't know, like, for some reason in the store, I always, or on the app that I order from, it always said caramel or caramel, however you say that. I always say caramel. But it like was, I thought it was a candy, like literally like some kind of infused dates or something. And then I was like, one day I'm like, no, they actually, someone told me, no, that's just on there because they're like creamy like that. And I'm like, I got to try these. And I'm like, this literally tastes like I'm eating like an actual candy bar from before I was raw vegan. Like, I couldn't believe it. So, try all different things, but some people might say they're too dense or whatever. But when I want dessert and I'm not going to grab a Reese's cup, I'm putting some nut butter on a date. I'm like, I'm not going to feel bad about it. And I don't want you to either. And that's the thing about a coach. Like, someone will come and tell me they were raw for 3 days. I was talking about in the last video, and she had a candy bar or whatever, a raw vegan treat. And it was like, she was really upset. And I'm like, no, let's celebrate that you were raw for 3 days. Like, that's amazing. You know, like you didn't ruin
right.
anything. You continued to, you know, it's a linear, not linear straight line. Like you can have something that's not raw and still keep going with your goals. It's not like a start and stop process, I would say too, because it's like we get this dopamine, like going raw, feeling good, and then, oh, I ruined everything. No, you didn't. Just keep going. Like,
Yeah, but also I feel like you want your dopamine from so like you're going along with your raw diet, you want your dopamine from dates, or you want your dopamine
yeah.
from avocados. That's the goal. In that you didn't go have Reese's in here. We have like Cadbury, I guess Hershey's, or you were an alcoholic, or coffee, whatever it is. It's you now had 2 or 3 avocados.
Mhm.
Celebrate this because it's pure nutrition. You don't feel bad. And it's
Yeah.
just not like the way that we live. It's very toxic if you start feeling bad, because you then seek out more bad. Your brain has this very clever
Like,
way
well,
of,
I already messed up. I'm just going to go all the way that way, right?
yeah, and then what it does is go, oh, it's so fine. I'll eat only grapes for like 4 days. That'll fix it. And then you're in like this eating cycle, which
Cycle.
doesn't serve you. And this is why there's many components to getting help. And I do believe books are great, but don't hinge it all on one. Like, as in, read, become like get opinions off as many people as you can, and
Yeah.
see what feels right for you.
I
Because
love that.
you just don't want like it's that's what life's like. Like, you pick bits that work for you from each person, and you've got the knowledge, but don't ever think that one person has
All
the
the
full
answers.
answer,
Yeah.
because you start living through their lens, not what we want for you, which is your own.
The only person that has all the answers is Skye, just if you're looking for someone.
The only person who has
I was
all the
not paid
answers
to promote her, I promise.
is
No,
each of
but
you
that's why
guys.
I love that, because like we look at it from a bigger lens, a wider lens. Like there can be a narrow lens and then a wider lens to look at things. Like I agree with you. You'll read a book, but read it like, I think it, like, it's Don that I had interviewed where he's like, read it like a researcher, you know, like take the parts out that work for you, you know, just like
I like that.
someone gave you like a big closet full of clothes, right? Just pick the ones out that you like. And then, like, if something doesn't resonate with you, it's okay. You don't have to follow everything. I agree with you. And like, you know, I would just say that find like that happiness in it. Like, if you don't get that excited about dates, then find something that makes you that excited, like I just was. And now, like, so excited about dates or avocado or whatever. Like, I love fresh, like, food. Like, sometimes I'll be sitting there and get excited, like, oh my goodness, it's almost time. I can have my salad, or I can have my grapefruit, or whatever it is. But, like, that's what makes me happy. But what we're asking you to find is something that brings you that joy. And if you do it long enough and you stay with it, you figure out that in your own life, I think.
Yeah, and when we talk about joy, think about it like this. How long do you think you can stay raw when you're eating, like, just say you're eating fruit all day and you're just so bored of it? It's not really exciting you. And you come home and your meal is you're just having more fruit. It's not really exciting you. How long do you think you'll stay on that journey if every time you look up from what you're doing, everybody else seems to be more excited than you? As in, like, every person walking past seems happy with whatever they've got. Every advertising board, that's what you're competing with. Like, your brain needs to feel content, and there is also a balance. So if something's not working for you, these are another reason to get help in these places, where some things may need a little bit of tweaking.
Mm.
But and also the other thing is, you need to use these principles when you first go raw. You need to unless you're very, very sick and you need to do some sort of protocol to help yourself, is you're better off learning how to love, become excited, find the joy in your journey, because I promise you, these people 5, 6, 7 years down the track are still doing it. changing their lifestyle, really. But it's fair. You have to find what works for you.
I completely agree.
Okay, I can't believe how fast the time's gone. So we
I
might have to do this
know.
in 2 parts. So we'll do because there's a few other things here, but we'll see how we go. This one I love because I feel you can really get a lot of information very quickly here. And this is YouTube channels and podcasts. Now, this is what came out. So I have that. JJ has that, the Raw Advantage. So Chris Kendall, you've got Raw Christina here, of course, Gillian Berry. They're just some. There's so many. Like Larissa and Marcus have channels. Who else? Miranda, Marabella.
Kiko.
Yeah. Kiko, yeah. There's so many. And the more you try all of this, you get information and connection very quickly. I really like it. That's why I do it.
It's also a community in the comments. Like I know when I come in your comments, I always see Koala Mama, and like you can have actual conversations in the comments with the people who come to certain podcasts and live streams. And the transformational stories were so, big to me too. And there's a lot of those on both of our channel where people are telling their story. And I find that was so helpful because you can hear the joy, but you also hear the struggle and how they overcame it in most cases. So I love YouTube. It's been like really helpful for me in my journey at all stages. Even learned how to write a book on there.
Yeah. But you know what? Even the when you listen to people's transformations, there's no cookie cutter way that people got here. Every transformation journey, all of them are completely different.
She's coming for her treat.
Oh, she knows. It's like Pavlov's dog.
Yes, I think she hears your voice through my headset. JJ's cat, Pavlov's cat.
So I've heard. So Koala has said here. I've heard this. We're going a bit off topic here, but that's so fun. If you have any Middle Eastern security dates from Saudi Arabia are truly like gooey caramels. I've heard all different dates have all these different flavors when you get them really fresh.
I just happen to have these here. I can verify these taste like caramel. Medjool dates.
They do Medjool dates.
And they're not dried like I thought they were, but they're in the produce section. So like you can, that's one of those things.
The difference between dates and dried fruit is dates dry on the tree. So as opposed to like picking it and then going through this processing thing, there's like, that's why you can find them. I mean, some are more processed than others, but the whole process is they caramelize where they are, as opposed to like picking a whole, because a date, there's a YouTube video up on my channel. I went out to Cabramatta and got all this tropical fruit, and they had some cut up dates. It was like a piece of apple. It's actually quite hydrating, not very sweet, but then they leave them and they caramelize. And I believe dates and avocados and bananas are the reason many people were able to go raw.
Yes, especially when it comes dates and bananas for dessert have been really super helpful. Like I've made things like with those like little mixtures, like before when I was on the smoothie, a date in the smoothie actually really sweetens it. Like a lot of people are like, how do you go without sugar? Well, the dates are so sweet. And Dawn, I gave her one. She's never had one. And she's like, how do you eat this? It's too sweet. And I'm like,
really?
I'm like, oh, I don't know. I didn't realize it was that sweet. Because usually I'm like more of a savory, person. Even like the fruits I eat, I like cantaloupe and, sometimes I'll eat grapes, but I can only eat so many of them because they get really sweet. And she's like, this is crazy. And I'm like, maybe it's because I think it's a candy bar when I'm eating it, like in my head or something, or some type of gooey chocolate or something it tastes like.
I remember when I discovered dates, it was like that. But also, dates are very high in iron, and I healed my anemia in a year. And I was like throwing back the date. So I wonder if I went back to a lot of dates.
I've had so much energy lately.
Yeah, you do. You get a lot of energy. Also, do you know what is really nice? Anyone listening, is you make banana and ice cream, and you once you've made the ice cream, you chuck in some dates. You can soak them for a little bit, and it turns into big caramel chunks through the ice cream.
Oh,
it's like
nice, and maybe some walnuts in there.
You could definitely put whatever you want, but like that by itself is like for breakfast or something.
Oh, that sounds. I can't do that at breakfast though. I would just be eating it all day. I'm like one of
Yes,
those. Like once my stomach gets going, like I don't even eat until like probably sometimes 2, 3, 4, sometimes 6. I sometimes haven't eaten until after this. It's almost like I let the
yeah.
excitement build for the rest of the day, right?
And a lot of the more, especially women I speak to on like these podcasts and stuff, like Marabella was saying that yesterday, she doesn't eat until the afternoon. Who else was saying it?
And
I
then
guess
some people are like, you better eat breakfast. That's one of those rules that like sometimes it's like just go with your body. So, it depends unless you're on medication or whatever,
oh, yeah,
sometimes you
no,
have to, but
Tony was saying she cannot eat before at least 11 yesterday.
me too.
So it's like each person to their own. But I won't rush through them because I think getting help is like a
Yeah.
big topic, right? So we can just continue it.
Part 2. I like it. We're
Part
doing a
two
sequel.
this will be part 1 and part 2. So I hope this helped. And as usual, we are trying to motivate you to find you, love you, enjoy you, because that's what you'll keep doing. You.
Yes, and go to the dating apps to find dates. Is that where you find them? I'm just kidding.
Oh my God,
I
do you want
had
to hear your
I
life
had to
story?
steal one pun
I know.
before we left.
You
I
know,
couldn't help
wait,
myself.
JJ, you'll love this. It was my birthday and I was doing disability support work, and I always took dates with me. Like out when I was doing support work, we could be out all day into the night. And it was my birthday, and 2 of the participants said, "Oh, can we see you before you go out for your birthday?" And they gave me this big thing of dates and wrote this card
Oh,
saying, "Will you date me?"
oh my
They
goodness,
were
I
laughing.
love
There's a
it.
video of it somewhere that they laughed. They were laughing so much. They found it so funny because I always had dates. They're like, "Is this who you're dating? Is this like you and your dates?"
It's like if your significant other says they want to have a date, right? It's like just show up with that, and that's not going to work though. I'm
Well, I can
guaranteeing.
imagine you doing
You
that,
better.
JJ, though,
I've
because
done it
that's
a
very
lot.
you. Oh my God. Thanks for
Oh,
listening.
thank
Thanks, JJ.
you.
We'll be back next week.
Okay, see you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Koala, for coming.
Bye.
Bye.